so excited today to have IBRA here, and you are a candidate from Eugene running for, I'm trying to remember, the fourth,
Congressional District 4.
four,
Yeah,
which I was just this morning learning. I'm not like, this is why I love having people like you, and I'm not the most savvy person, but that's Val Hoyle currently, right?
correct.
Who, like a lot of guests I've talked about on this show, have pointed to the recent controversy with her and not submitting the bully uh, records requests, and I think she recently did, but I'm fascinated that like you're running against her, and I'm curious too, like because I don't know the political landscape in Eugene. Is she like pretty beleaguered right now, and like people are not supporting her in Eugene, and
Well, I don't think that kind of questionable action with the Lamoda and the grant that she did with the bully really affected her base. I don't think that had any influence. Maybe some people wanted to question that, but because we don't have like really concrete evidence
mm,
of corruption, then I don't think that has had like any influence over her for this year and this time. But it's really suspicious because when she was on Boli, she granted basically indirectly her donors
okay,
some grant, and I would say it's not ethical, but we don't have a lot of evidence about this, so
yeah,
probably we shouldn't really judge for now and wait. Um, but this is typical. I mean, people in power, politicians, usually benefit those who are closer to them, who are supporter of them. So this is not unusual.
yeah,
If people caught maybe Val Hoyle doing this, maybe they didn't catch bigger names. The
yeah,
Congress does that all the time.
yeah,
I mean, the bailouts, all of these appropriation bills, people don't understand that it benefit the donor class all the time. It's not, there's no question about it, no dispute about it. But now it happened here, and some people broke the story about it. Then it generates that kind of interest and such type of corruption. But now, what do you want to call then weapons manufacturer all the time, getting the biggest cuts in every appropriation bill, and those the same people who would really uh, enable those politicians to get reelected all the time.
mm-hmm.
It didn't happen directly.
Yeah,
They weren't like the um, the highest position that would grant these things, like being the head of Boli, but they have one of the highest positions of power in the country, and they do that unanimously all the time, almost all the time, and nobody questioned that.
yeah,
People should question that. This is why I like Open Secrets, that website.
mm-hmm.
They can track the money, where it came from, especially if they want to pass a bill. Sometimes you can see it. So let's say they want to pass a bill about agriculture, and many people are not comfortable in Congress to vote on it. Then you see the money flows,
Mm-hmm.
and then they change their positions and they pass the bill.
Mm-hmm.
It happens all the time. I remember one of the biggest bills that really harmed the country, which is renewing the NAFTA deal.
Mm.
People don't know about NAFTA, which is the North Atlantic
Free trade,
trade
yeah,
partnership, which is between Mexico and Canada and the U.S. Bill Clinton passed it during his presidency, and Trump came into power and wanted to pass a new version of it.
mm-hmm.
Well, he said that he wanted to fix it. In my opinion, he did not fix it. He just renewed it and gave it another name.
Mm-hmm.
If you read the bill, I've read the bill. It's like really 800 something pages, and I read most of it, and almost like 90% almost of the provisions in that bill, the USMCA, the new one, it's borrowed from the NAFTA and the TPP that he also criticized.
Mm.
So the Congress were not real comfortable with it, and then we saw the money started to flow into Candace campaigns, and
Mm.
then it passed.
Yeah,
and because it was not really popular with the people, many people did not really feel comfortable in Congress voting on it because it's not popular. Uh, it's not that they care about the country. It's not popular with the people. That makes some political pressure that they don't want to see. They passed it during the impeachment articles in the Congress. So the entire country's attention was on the impeachment process. I mean, everyone was talking about the impeachment,
Right.
and then it passed the House during the impeachment articles, the inquiry, and then when it went to the Senate, also it was passed during the impeachment trial. So they have different name, impeachment trial in the Senate. So it passed both houses during the impeachment thing, and nobody talked about it. But when you look at it, in my opinion, it's more dangerous than the NAFTA one. So NAFTA, what it did, it killed manufacturing jobs. Now people probably should be aware of it. 50% of our products come from overseas. 50%. I mean, that
Almost
huge,
seems low.
that
Like,
huge,
yeah.
that huge economic power, we lost it because of NAFTA.
Yeah.
We're dependent on overseas. We don't have dependence. Our economy is not strong, and that because of NAFTA. It means jobs, not just revenue. Jobs, stability. If something happens in the Middle East now, if something happens and they close the strait and the Suez Canal and the straits, a huge part of what we have in the country will be disturbed.
Yeah.
And we are dependent on the oil market. This is why higher prices. So if we want to lower the prices, we should go local. I know the cost of production would be higher, but that would correlate with higher wages. So this is what makes the economy very stable. So anyhow, so NAFTA did that, and then the USMCA kept the same thing and added the agriculture part to it.
Okay.
And also one of the really disturbing things about it is they allowed the board of commissioners. So the bill would create a board of commissioners, independent of the government. They allowed the board of commissioners now to modify the deal.
Okay.
Without going back to Congress.
Right. So they
can do
modify,
whatever they want.
Yeah.
Without going back to Congress. I mean, they can harm the people. They can accumulate all of that kind of economic power
And
without going back to Congress.
You think that's like a key component of what like started a big globalization process in the U.S. and
so when we talk about globalization, I mean, I don't know if people understand that word in fully. I mean, when we talk about the UN. When you talk about a globalist, now many people talk about the globalist. There's two components to it. One is political power, and the other one is economic power. And definitely, the USMCA, NAFTA, contributed to that kind of centralized global power.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, this is kind of a weird transition, but I'm curious, like, one of the things that really fascinated me about you was, like, your kind of philosopher's take on being elected if you were elected. Like, I think that's really intriguing and, like, has a lot of potential. But, like, I'm just curious, like, your take on how that could be like a better, a politician coming at it from a better angle.
So many people, when they hear the word philosopher, they think, I'm just sitting on my couch trying to stipulate and think about the world in a way that is really abstract and all of that. Well, this is true for some areas in philosophy, like ontology. They do that all the time. But part of philosophy is the foundation concepts in political science, in social science, in psychology. So when we talk about philosophy in politics, we look at Jefferson, Thomas Paine. You can call them philosophers in politics, political scientists, but philosophers too, because they talked about the foundation of the government, the foundation of human rights, the foundation of what makes the government works in a way that protects people's liberties. These are philosophical concepts, and people think that those concepts are not related to nowadays politics. But for example, if we look at the Second Amendment discussion, what do we do with it? Can we restrict it? Can we take it away from the people? It boils down to one thing: is it a human right or not? And if it's a human right, then what is the foundation of that kind of right? Does it come from the government or not? All of these questions need to be answered. And if we start to answer them, this is philosophical inquiry.
Yeah.
And people don't want to really think deeply about it. So, we are reduced to slogans most of the time. If you are Republican, you'll say, I'm going to protect the Second Amendment. And then when you engage in a discussion with someone who's against it, you don't know how to convince them to be on your side because you don't have anything other than slogans.
Yeah.
And just like something that you can buy with your campaign, just like you campaign with it, that's it. But no understanding. Actually, this is something that the lack of discussion, the lack of going deeper
nuance, yeah,
into these concepts, in a way made the people very superficial about politics. They're very superficial. This is why they now resort to emotional motivation. If they want to convince someone about a specific position, they will tell a personal story. I don't know if you've seen many debates, like presidential debates, the highest office in the country. They would start those candidates. They would start with a personal story about them.
Yeah.
Well, we feel bad about your story, but then what does that do to our understanding and on this issue? Nothing. But they do that because people would respond emotionally to the issue that they want them to get behind.
I was curious. I was going to ask you about, did you see the debate this week? You felt like it was kind of like that, the Newsom and
I didn't
DeSantis.
watch it. I just saw some snippets of it, but I didn't really care much about it. Maybe they're trying to prepare for something. Maybe Newsom, DeSantis, they have some sort of plan to make that happen. This is why because it's weird. This is a presidential candidate. This is a presidential candidate, and the other guy is just a governor who's not running for anything. But now they're debating for the second time. Why would that kind of debate happen? Unless they want, in my opinion, they want to push Newsom and DeSantis into the public eye, normalize that kind of idea that those people would go against each other because maybe they foresee the future that it doesn't have Trump in it or maybe Biden in it.
Yeah.
So, but I did not really I didn't listen and watch the debate. But anyhow, I don't think it's going to be
I was just
different.
curious, yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the philosophy side, I'm curious, do you think there was like a point when that shifted? Because it makes sense what you're saying, like the founding fathers and stuff had more of that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, yeah, like you said, it's bumper stickers and slogans. And
yeah,
do you think that
actually,
when did that change?
So it is really, astonishing to look at just 40 or 50 years ago, the kind of discussions between candidates. Some people pointed out, if you look at for example, the Nixon debate with JFK,
Mm-hmm.
it was almost like postgraduate level
Mm-hmm.
of intellectual discussion. We don't see that now.
Yeah.
The only thing we see, as I said, personal stories, slogans, divergence from the issue to something else, personal attacks. That's it.
Yeah.
And this is partly what the media does. I mean, they reduce it to a very superficial thing. And actually, the people, we should start blaming ourselves too.
Yeah.
Because we don't demand anything other than what we see. I mean, we don't demand like really hard and deep discussions about subjects. We don't see that. I don't know if it's a societal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, to me, it looks like it. The society started to lose that kind of interest in discussions. I don't want to. I don't want to go deeper than that, but I think the society is not interested in it. I mean, let's put it that way and
Yeah.
just keep it that way. So this is when you think about it now. If the society is not interested in discussion, what's going to happen? They're going to resort to emotional responses. Emotional responses is a huge driver to the division that we have in the country. That kind of divisiveness, with a lackness of a discussion to understand each other. I mean, deep discussion about it. Then we're gonna restore to that kind of emotional response, which is hating each other,
Mm-hmm.
hating
Mm-hmm.
the positions that the other guy the other people have, and then maybe we see violence.
Yeah.
Maybe that would lead to violence. Maybe.
I was just doing a podcast yesterday with some friends of mine, but we were talking about next 2024, and like everyone I've talked to on this show is like next year you're gonna see riots in Portland again because there's all this pent up anger, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like you're talking about. I'm curious if you think that's true, and also like is that kind of do you feel that way in Eugene as well? Do you feel that kind of divisiveness just growing and
So Eugene is like a mini Portland.
yeah, I feel that way. Yeah.
But it's really mini and not really big. For example, when we experienced the George Floyd's
Mm-hmm.
riots and protests in Eugene, we saw some of it. They burned like one or two
I remember
stores
seeing some
there.
videos, yeah, in the
Yeah,
streets.
and they blocked the streets maybe for 10 days only, but then it went away.
Yeah, it wasn't like up
So
here.
probably the most of the people. I mean, come on, don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, just leave it for Portland.
Yeah,
if,
yeah.
if you're really excited about it, just go there. But the smaller communities, the small towns, tend to be more peaceful, more calm than city life. I mean, city life it has many disadvantages. One of them, the sense of community that wants to see the community organized, very calm, disappears from city life.
Mm-hmm.
People are not really connected to each other. People live in apartments, densely places. They don't have that kind of connection between each other. But in Eugene, it's a suburb, and the people have families, have connections. Many people live there for a few decades. So they have that kind of connection. They don't want to see disturbance to that kind of calmness, uh, and the moderate to slow pace life that they have. Probably this is why we cannot see it. We cannot see such riots in Eugene.
Yeah.
And if there's a revolution, we're not gonna be seeing it coming out of Eugene.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe me, I'll do it, but just individual one, but not the entire society.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I don't know.
I'm just curious about it because had one person from Eugene on this show, and I see it kind of like you were saying as a mini Portland, but sometimes it's like a preview of like things to come. One of the things I was going to bring up was like maybe a month ago they proposed that gas station ban, and I could totally see that eventually coming here or propose. You know, I know it was like a nonprofit that proposed.
So
it,
the
but...
thing about Eugene is, so I was born in Eugene.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've seen it change. It changes a lot. Many people in Eugene, born and raised in Eugene, started to leave Eugene, and
Are they coming up here or
just
all over?
everywhere. I
Yeah.
mean, all over. But because it's like a smaller town, and people want to see more opportunities, they want more excitement, maybe. But then we have the University of Oregon there. A lot of the people who come for these universities would stay here, and the majority of those people are from out of state. So, and many jobs that these big corporations that we have and big companies, they hire I don't know why, but they favor people from out of state. Because I was looking at it for a while in the past. They hire more people from out of state than people from Eugene, which means the job opportunity now, it's not
Mm.
uh, unequal like footings for people. People would go to other places to find like better jobs, and those people coming from out of state, they're changing this kind of culture and community that we have in Eugene. So
And the,
Eugene 15 years ago is not Eugene today.
yeah, and I was gonna ask, are those mostly college students like being placed in those jobs, or
Not really, but many of them would stay.
yeah,
And as I said, the majority of the students that we have from out of state, mainly from California.
yeah,
I, I,
yeah.
I don't want to say it, but yeah,
It's a good guess.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's like probably I don't have the percentage, but my guess it's like more than 70% of the
yeah.
students in the U of O from California, and those people come from different culture, and the rapid change in society destabilized the society. And this is something that we need to address, but the discussion about it is absent. When we talk about the rapid changes in the society, what does it mean to a site to see that, to witness that? The connections that I was talking about in the community would disappear. What does it do to society?
Hmm.
Are we gonna go into really care about the society if it keeps changing? If we don't have connection to the place that we live in, um, uh, we are indifferent to it. If it goes bad, then we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
What kind of psychological condition that would have on the people? Because if people really don't have that kind of connection to society, family, friends, then the main thing that they care about is themselves.
Hmm.
This is a problem with the American society in general. If we look at since the 1970s and 80s, because of the economy and culture, both of them, they influence each other, but mainly because of the economy, we can see this kind of scatteredness,
Mm.
lack of connections and communication. It used to be like people in the same town, they have a family business, family relationships. Everyone know that family, and they have these individuals from these families would have connection, relationship to their family and other people's families. So they have that kind of community. They have that. Now they don't have it. Because the economy changes a lot. People looking for opportunity. They move a lot. One of the staggering things about the movement inside the country is 10% of the people would move
Hmm.
in the country every year.
Wow, every year. Wow.
If you think about it, in 5 years, you're gonna see 50% changes in the demographic of the society.
Yeah.
What does it do to a society? How people would start think about things? Would they be really caring about the society that they live in, or more about themselves?
Because they're
And
just gonna move on
yeah, and
somewhere
if
else. Yeah.
something goes bad, they can move to somewhere else. But if you have, as opposed to having family roots there, family business, I mean, the
Yeah.
economy, you're dependent on the business that your family, your friends generate, then you're not going to be able to move. But as opposed to having a job with a company here, then you can find another job there and move. People need to think about it. I don't see too many people think about it actually at all when they link the rapid movement within the state and nationally, just within the state, from county to county to city to city, and nationally. What does it do to society? It breaks it down,
Hmm.
and add to it that kind of reluctance to have a family
Yeah. I was just gonna
now.
ask you about that,
Yeah.
like, because there's so much conversation about that nowadays, and I personally think it's super important. I grew up with a single parent, and you know, having a full structured family is just so important. And but I'm curious, like, what do you think is creating that now, of just this, like, the plutonic families kind of going away? And
Well, mainly when I looked at it, actually, let me just expand on it. I was looking at the homelessness problem a few years ago, and the one thing that I wanted to really um, get a grip on and to answer the main question was, why do we have homelessness here
Yeah.
and we don't see it in poor countries?
It's so funny you say that
Yeah.
because I take Lyft a lot and I have a lot of international drivers, and I always ask them, "Do you see this in other countries
Mhm.
or where you're from?" And they say no.
Yeah,
I don't see it.
I traveled. I've seen some part of the world. Um, even though they are poorer than the U.S., they don't have homelessness. But here we see homelessness. So I started looking into it and what are the causes of the homelessness issue. And the main reason I would say for the homelessness is family.
Mm-hmm.
I know people talk about jobs, the economy. People get kicked
Drugs.
out,
Yeah.
yeah, drugs, and get kicked out of their houses because they couldn't afford the rent. These are immediate causes,
Yeah.
but they're not the foundational cause of it.
I think I would agree with you on,
Yeah.
yeah, like,
So
because that's the root.
people need to really discuss it in a deep way to understand it. One of the main indicators that people can think about it, and also talk about what the other thing that gonna be really recognized about that kind of system. 50%, one of the statistics that people have to look at, 50% of those people that end up homeless, they either have been in the foster care system,
Mm,
or maybe their parents were in the foster care system.
wow.
50%, you cannot ignore that
Yeah, that's a huge
statistic.
number. Yeah.
And then when you think about it, so just think about it now on a very quick way. So it definitely has to do with something with family, because foster care system, child protective services, family.
Mm,
And the other one is, what does that kind of system, foster care system, do to the society?
mm-hmm.
So why do we have problems in family, and why this system is producing such
Yeah.
people?
Sort of like
So we have two problems here.
our answer or our treatment. You have to kind of see what that's doing.
Yeah. So if you look at it and you just want to take a guess, like a very very quick guess, that child protective services is doing disservice to the society, is producing homelessness,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a big statistic.
Yeah.
And then the family is broken. This is why we end up with child protective services. Not all the time, because child protective services is in my opinion, a very corrupt system.
Yeah. I was going to say in Oregon, we have a lot of problems with that.
And
Yeah.
just like last week, I was talking to a mom. Her story is just is known in the state. She was sentenced to prison
Mm-hmm.
because of medical issues with her daughter 7 years ago.
Okay.
But now they came after her again, and they sentenced her to prison. And during that time, the government wanted to get back at her. They called Child Protective Services,
Mm-hmm.
and they took the daughter from her. It was about medical treatment that she refused after it failed.
Mm.
So it failed. She refused. She wanted to see another option. The doctors at the hospital didn't like the issue.
Yeah.
They didn't like the moms wanting to seek a different approach,
Yeah.
different opinion.
Well, that's
After their treatment failed.
it's an interesting intersection of also
Yeah.
of like parental rights with health,
Mhm.
right? And that kind
So
of thing.
what we see now, that the government wants to take charge of the health of the kids.
Yeah.
So they want to be in charge, not the parents. You know, people, when they talk about the government intervening in these issues, now we don't see it on a wide scale, but the issues that they have intervened in, they're really wild.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I am a parent. I have 3 kids,
Mm-hmm.
one on the way too.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks so much. So can you imagine, like, I just someone knocking on your door, probably with the help of police, removing your child because you chose something for your child that you think is the best choice for them.
Mm-hmm.
and this is happening. So if I have a different opinion than yours, but you are in the position of power, and I'm not, what you're gonna do? You're gonna use that power that you have. People with guns, you can order them. I mean, the police,
Yeah.
or maybe the
Authorities.
federal. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna just because you have that power, you're gonna call them and ask them to go after that guy or that woman that you have a different opinion
Yeah.
with about a specific issue.
It was that.
We've seen it sometimes with vaccines
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I was gonna say definitely
Yeah.
after COVID, you saw this. There's one state mandated medical opinion, and if you want a second opinion, they say no.
So
You know?
I'm not saying that anything about vaccines
Yeah.
now for now, unless you want to ask about it. But we've seen some judges removing the custody of some parents because of vaccine after the COVID thing. We've seen that.
Yeah.
And now people are started having question about the vaccine. So what does that make that judge?
Yeah. Well, and also,
He used his power to remove the parents' rights,
right.
to violate the Constitution, actually.
And like you're saying, eventually it's obviously going to disrupt this family for life, and I was curious too. Like, what I was talking more about too was like I've seen this at least reported a lot is foster kids that get into the Oregon. I think it's DHS, is that right? Or I can't remember what this is called in Oregon, but they just have trouble even making sure the kid after they're separated have proper care. And like for a while they were like sending them to like motels and like hotels, and like they didn't have places to like house the kids, or they'd send them to a parent who wasn't, the best parent to the kid. And so it's just like it seems ripe with problems, plus this stuff you're talking about, obviously.
Yeah, so I want to add one thing about it, and maybe we can move on to another different subject. But the Child Protective Services, the issues that the problems that they have, they're not new. I was looking at studies from the 1980s,
Right.
1990s. They're talking about this system. As some scientists, I mean, the conclusion: this system is riddled with problems, and we have to fix it now. I've seen such expressions from the 1980s and 90s, but what happened? I mean, after these studies, the commission to see what's going on with the Child Protective Services, they just continued on.
Yeah, I mean, this is 30 years ago. Yeah. Let's see what we could move on to here, or if there's anything you want to bring up. But I have a lot of other stuff here. I'm curious your take on this. Might be a hot take, but I've been talking to a lot of people on this show who are Republicans who find, and I know this isn't what you're running for, but the Oregon Republican state Congress, they have a lot of disagreements with how they run themselves, like the walkouts this year. A lot of people disagree with that. Some people agree with it. I'm just curious, like, if you were to be elected, how you'd work with the current Republicans there that are elected. And
so we're talking about the local state.
I'm talking about the state
party,
but also federal Congress too, and just how you'd work together. And
so unfortunately, I mean, the Congress. Just to talk about the Congress, most of these politicians, they're not really bright. Yeah, some people, I call them just hollow and shallow.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that. They don't understand the issues. I mean, they understand like just a superficial thing about it. And when you have such people in positions of power and they don't know, I mean, what to do, what kind of direction they take, usually they follow the leadership. And those are, in my opinion, those are bad, selfish people. I mean, they don't care about the issues. They don't care about us, the people. They care about themselves. And they saw an opportunity to get in a position of power and they took it. They convinced the people that they really care about them. And maybe someone is delusional about himself or herself, that they think that they care about the people, but they actually think they care about themselves, but they haven't questioned themselves. I mean, this is a human nature. Those people usually are the majority in Congress. Sometimes we see bills that violate the Constitution and they vote on them.
Are you talking about like the recent firearms thing?
No, I'm talking about generally, we saw even Republicans really violate the Constitution. I mean, all the time they do that. They bankrupt the country. They send us into wars that has nothing to do with us. They do that all the time. The government spying powers. I mean, the, first came into as a bill. It came into legislation by Republicans, and then Congress now, both sides of the aisle, they pass it every year. They renew it. This is the Patriot Act. This is the FISA court. This is the NDA with the detention without due process that Obama put in place in 2012. This is the propaganda of the government that was made legal. They vote on these things all the time, and what we saw during COVID, they were willing to bankrupt the country. They are willing to push people into poverty. They fund tyranny, and this is both sides. I'm not talking about only Democrats. I'm talking about both sides. So I only have like 2 or 3 people I can see in Congress that I can work with.
Okay.
If I get
Can
there.
you say who they are?
So MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's good on many issues. I agree. I disagree with her on a few things, but she's mainly against the wars.
Yeah.
Enriching the military-industrial complex, fighting wars that doesn't have anything to do with us, which is basically now all of them. She's against the bloated budget. She's against increasing the national debt. She's good, but she's not my favorite.
Okay.
But she's good. I'm willing to work with her. I mean, she's doing a lot of great things there. She's against censorship, unless when it came to Israel-Palestine, she was weak on the First Amendment. But then Thomas Massey, probably he's my favorite. He's been consistent on all of these issues during his time in Congress. He's the only one who voted. He didn't vote, but he opposed the CARES Act, which funded all of the COVID measures.
Right.
He was the only one who was consistent about it. He's the only one who opposed adding restrictions to free speech just recently within the Israel and anti-Semitic thing and the anti-Zionist, anti-Israeli bill that happened, which tries to equalize criticizing Israel with anti-Semitism, meaning you hate Jews. If you criticize Israel, you mean you hate Jews. He opposed it. He was the only one who opposed it. So he's been consistent. Those people I can work with.
Yeah, I can see
and
that.
we have Matt Gaetz. Sometimes he's really good. He introduced 2 bills to hold Biden accountable regarding his violation of the Wars Powers Act, which means that the president cannot wage war without going first to the Congress and having the war approved by Congress. That was regarding Somalia and Syria, but unfortunately, the majority of the Republicans and the Democrats voted against it. So Matt Gaetz wanted to just say that this is unconstitutional. You cannot do that. In plain language, it's not constitutional. Nobody argues it's constitutional, but all of them, the majority of them, said, "No, Constitution. What does that mean?
Right.
Come on, we need to be there.
Yeah.
It's illegal, unconstitutional, but we don't want to be there." Unfortunately, the people here, the members of Congress from Oregon, support these violations. This is why they need to go, all of them. Even we have 2 Republicans who supported that and 4 Democrats who supported that. So all of them are really bad on it. So those are people I can work with. Now, when you talk about the state issue, so we have a really tough position here in the state, like locally. When they did the walkout I mean, they didn't have any other options.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
And usually you want to stick to the rules, and you don't want to really suspend the the process. But sometimes you end up with really bad bills. I mean, the two bills that they wanted to really dismiss was one of them was about parental rights
Hmm.
within the I think it's 2002B, and the other one was about the gun rights, which is bad because the people just passed Measure 114, which is basically the 2005 bill. But the author of this bill thought 114 would fail in courts, so we're gonna have a backup bill that is separate than the 114.
Interesting. I see.
So people now are going. Probably you've heard the 114 failed,
Right,
at
'cause
least
that's
for now locally,
what
right?
just happened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it failed, and that guy, I forgot his name. I think Brzezinski or something. He's from Eugene, my area.
The judge.
The
or-
Democrat. The
Oh,
Democrat.
the guy of the
who,
bill.
the author, who authored the 2005 bill, thought they spent all of that money on lawyers, and they went to court and did all of that. It's gonna take years. Now I have a backup plan, which is 2005. He did that, which is it's sinister
And so
to say the least.
I don't know much. Is that they're trying to push that through now? Is that what's going on, or
The
the
2005
backup?
bill,
Yeah.
they passed it,
Oh, it already. Okay.
but I don't know how different it would be than 114
Right,
now.
right.
Actually, I'm not sure if it passed the House or not. So I'm not sure. I
It's somewhere
forgot
in there.
about it.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
I went there and testified against it, and he was sitting there. I asked them, just like, I didn't ask him. I told him, hey, this was the principle of natural human rights. So, many people think it's a human right, and mainly liberals will talk about human rights. They have that word more in use more than Republicans. But then I told them, now if we acknowledge that we have natural human rights, and then these natural human rights they are rights because of our humanity. These are the basis. We are humans, then we have specific rights. They're natural to us, which means they do not depend on government. They do not depend on piece of legislation, and they do not depend on the majority vote or any society. They don't. They precede the society. They precede the government. They precede all of these structures that we put in place, because we are the humans who create these structures, so they don't have like override power over what we have naturally. Then therefore, you and the government, what gives you the right to remove these natural rights?
Yeah.
They don't have that. If the majority, let's say, decided to revoke your right to life, means they said, yeah, let's kill him. Does it make it right? I mean, is that a violation of your natural right to protect yourself? Sometimes the individual would do is to relinquish these powers voluntarily, or by violating other people's rights.
Yeah.
So that type of relinquishing, we need to see it before the government would make a piece of legislation violating these rights. But that didn't happen, and that was the same thing when we talked about the gun rights. I mean, I have a natural right to possess whatever I want, to defend myself, or maybe for other purposes, but not to violate other people's rights. I have that kind of right. Now, when you want to take it away from me, why? Can you explain yourself? There's no answer.
Yeah.
They say it's we want to reduce the violent crimes, but then those people, I mean, whatever you want to tell them, they're gonna be violent, and those criminals, I mean, you want to just take care of these criminals by removing my rights. I mean, what kind of logic is that?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So this is what the reason that they did that, the walkout. And the other bit was to Actually, people don't know about the nuance in the 2002B, which is about medical treatment and
Yeah.
abortion.
Yeah.
The majority of the provisions in that bill uh, were old.
Really?
They are already law here,
Okay.
and people did not know about it.
That is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing they added like two major things to it. Only two major things. So already the kid can go and have the surgery to change sex without the parent knowledge. This is a law.
That's
They can do that.
already there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's already there. I didn't know. I was really surprised about it because I follow a lot of medical freedom groups and they didn't know. And I assumed this is the new thing that they want to impose. But it's already a law here. So they can go to the doctor and the doctor can perform the surgery, give them treatment without their knowledge, the parents' knowledge. Now, what they added to it is if the parent requests records about medical records
Okay.
about what happened, then the doctor they can tell them no, we're not gonna
Interesting.
do that.
Okay.
But before that, if the parent would request medical records, they have to provide it to them. Now, the bill just says no, you don't need to know anything about
Oh
it.
wow. Okay.
This is the addition to it,
Yeah.
and the coverage from the insurance companies.
So it's actually yeah, it made it even harder
Yeah.
for a parent to.
Yeah, but I was surprised that this is already a law.
Yeah, I didn't know
And
that.
I
Yeah.
was thinking, where was the uproar about it? Those elected officials, why they didn't talk about it? They only talked about this one, and thankfully, they made it. They made us aware of it. But where were they 2 years ago when they
Yeah.
passed it?
Yeah. That's a good
It
question.
is egregious.
Yeah.
So they felt the need to, because of public pressure too, my guess, even Republicans, they felt the need to walk out to destroy this bill.
Yeah. It's one of those things
But
like
then it didn't work.
I can understand both. Yeah. The people I was talking to yesterday, they were like, this was the dumbest move Republicans have ever done. I've heard that, but I've also heard, yeah, what you're saying of like, it's kind
No,
of like,
if I was there and the only option is to destroy my career,
yeah.
to just, I mean, to see that this bill would not pass,
Yeah.
I would do it. I mean, this is the only these are bad bills.
Mm-hmm.
People don't think about it in that way, but um, it is a permission
Yeah.
for anything more in the future. It's a permission. I mean, it's already saying that the doctor now can have the rule of the guardian, and
Yeah.
the parents have no way, no ability to stop it.
Yeah. And
It's really bad.
in my opinion, you see that with medical, and then you also see that with schools, where the state wants to replace parents with themselves, with the state. But anyway, we have a few more minutes here. Can I have a couple like closing questions, but I want to ask you about that first. Like, when did you found the anti-war?
Yeah, I'm a co-founder. It used to be called like Parties of Peace, and it was not my idea. It was my friend Will Hobson, who's a libertarian.
Okay.
When he saw my stances on anti-war issues,
Mm-hmm.
opposing wars, he contacted me about 3-4 years ago, and we got together and we discussed how to advance this cause, the cause of peace, just stopping wars, illegal wars, and we came up with that kind of decision to make some sort of coalition, and we did that 3 years ago. We were not really active as much as we wanted. We did not organize ourselves to make an effect and influence here in Oregon's politics. But just recently, we decided to take it to another different level now. We have an organization. We are registered with the state as a PAC. And this election cycle, we definitely going to have some sort of influence. Right now, as I mentioned, all of our Congress members here from Oregon, they're bad on foreign policy. I mean, they fund wars. They fund wars. They fund killing. They don't mind that people are dying. For example, Trump, he at least said twice. He tried twice to get us out of Syria
Mm-hmm.
in 2016 and 17, or maybe 17 and 18. But the Congress opposed them. And right after that opposition that came from Congress, we have troops in Syria now illegally there.
Mm.
So it's illegal according to international law. It is unconstitutional according to our constitution. So we have these troops there. And after that opposition, one of the candidates who was running for Congress, his name is Joe Kent up in
Yeah, yeah,
Washington.
joking, yeah.
His wife was killed in Syria.
Oh wow, I didn't actually know
So
that.
had they removed these troops there who are positioned there illegally, who are positioned in a country that we are not in war with, they're not a threat to any American. Had they removed them, then his wife wouldn't have been killed. So people are being killed.
Mm-hmm.
We are contributing in killing people from the other side, and our troops. We are putting them in harm's way. So the Congress just recently, as I said, with Matt Gaetz, voted against the War Powers Resolution. So this time we decided that there's two congresswomen, freshmen, that we are going to try to unseat this time.
Okay.
And it never happened that anti-war issue would dominate, would be the main driver for any organization here in Oregon. But this is what we're trying to say, what we're trying to do here. People are fed up with wars.
Mm-hmm.
People are fed up with violating the Constitution. And those people who have weak positions now because they only won by a few thousand votes, we are going to go after them.
Yeah.
They need to learn that they cannot violate the Constitution. They cannot really disregard human life. And this is what we are going to do with this organization. It's called Anti-War Oregon. We have a website. We have social media.
Yeah, it's all anti-war Oregon.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, it's interesting to me because just a quick thing. I wonder if you see this in Eugene too, like with young people younger than me. Like I grew up in this very young people my age saw America as the police state going after these other countries, and it was a very anti-war kind of generation. And then, but I see with the younger kids, they just want to take a side, like with the Ukraine thing. They just want to say, Putin's a bad guy, all this stuff. Facts aside, like I just think that's really weird that it's a shift from like my generation to see younger kids just gung-ho about war. I'm curious if you see that in Eugene too. Is that kind of
so I probably this is related to what we talked about at the beginning of it. I mean, the people lack the depth of understanding of the issues, and this is because of the society itself, because of the media itself, and the politicians. So they are really easily manipulated about any issue. The media can really
you just kind of
can convince people
you need
to have a
bad guy, and then they
I mean they need to feel good about doing something. They need to feel good about supporting an oppressor. Maybe that word would really appear on different discussions. But other than that, they don't understand the history of it and why did that happen. You cannot take the media's reports at face value, and even the government reports at face value.
Yeah.
Like it is a fact that every few decades, every few years, we learn that the government lied about a major thing.
Yeah, that's true.
They lied about the Vietnam War. They lied about the Iraq War. They lied about even the Afghan War in some sense. They lied about Nicaragua. They lied about El Salvador, Honduras. Every time.
I think it's interesting that JFK is still like they won't.
Yeah, that's a different issue.
Yeah,
but every time, so we learned that the government lie about major things, and then now when we look at a fresh war, we suddenly trust the government. We suddenly trust the media. I think there's The blame here goes to those people who appear they present themselves to be anti-war on specific wars, but then flip-flop on other wars. They do that all the time. Now, because of what Trump, what he brought to the Republican Party, they departed from the neocon, neoconservative, pro-war mentality to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
So when the left want to criticize them about wars, they can criticize them from a position of lies and hypocrisy. They were the right people when they talked about Syria, Somalia, and the wars in the Middle East. But when it came to Iran, China, and Israel, the right, those people who presented themselves to be anti-war because they know that wars are just manipulation. It's just about politics. It has nothing to do with people's rights, defending themselves. It is a global scheme to reshape the world. All of that, they ignore it when it comes to these three conflicts.
Mm.
So those people who genuinely want to see an end to the violence, to wars on the left or independents, they cannot rally behind those Republicans because they see them as like this is double standards. Sometimes it's very hypocritical what they see from them.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing, those people, independents and on the right who are opposed to wars, when they saw the Ukrainian war, the war that has a history that goes back to the 1950s of intervention of U.S. Policies, and then 2004 the Orange Revolution under George W. Bush, and then the 2014 coup under Obama and Biden and Clinton and Nuland. They ignore all of that history and they pick up that fresh war that started in 2021 February, and they think that Putin he needs to go. They're willing to wage war against Russia, and then the casualties are the human cost of it is disregarded.
Totally, yeah.
500,000. This is really painful to say it. In 2021, 2 months after the Russian invasion started, Zelensky and some officials from Ukraine were meeting with officials from Russia to have to end the war. Just 2 months after that, after the invasion, they tried to end the war, and they reached a deal. But then the United States, with the collaboration with Britain, they sent officials, and including Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the UK, to Zelensky, telling him, "Don't sign the deal." And we know that because they started to admit that later on. At that point, the bloodshed would have ended. Now, because Ukraine gotten weaker in the war, they're talking again about negotiations now, and the U.S. government, to some degree, is leaning toward that kind of solution. But after what? After 500,000 Ukrainian was killed. 500,000. More than 500,000 lives were lost because some arrogance and because of some geopolitical goals of the U.S. and the Britain government.
Not to mention, everyone here complains about all the money that the U.S.
money laundering and all of that.
Yeah.
But now, if we don't want to be really selfish and we want to be really human, we need to talk about the human cost of it.
Lives, yeah.
So 500,000 killed, millions displaced, and those 500,000 killed, they have families, they have society. What happened to that society? What is going to happen in the next decades? And all of that because the government rallied up people to support this war. this is really a tragedy. Even the Republicans, later on, they started to oppose it, but at the beginning they were all in. They were all in. All of these fundings, I mean, didn't stop. I mean, we didn't see really significant opposition to it until just this year.
Yeah.
Maybe the half part of this year.
There were so
only.
many approvals in
Yeah,
Congress.
so you can look at the votes. The majority of the Republican Party voted for these bills, and even before that, before this war started, all of the transfer of weapons, the sales, the aid to Ukraine was supported by both parties. This is why probably we don't see a real opposition to wars politically from political parties. And the idea of this PAC, anti-war Oregon, is to have that kind of coalition.
That's cool, yeah.
To oppose the war. Because without that kind of coalition, then we're not going to go that far with it. We have people from the Libertarian Party, we have people from the Green Party, we have people from the Democrats, and of course me as a Republican and other Republicans are involved with it too.
That's great, yeah. Yeah, and people definitely check it out if you're interested. I always end with these kind of goofier questions. They're not super goofy, but you mentioned you were born in Eugene, you grew up there. I always ask people like their Northwest story. So you're just kind of a Eugene lifer. You've been there.
No, actually, I was born in Eugene.
Okay.
A few years later, my dad moved to Beaverton here.
Okay.
So we lived in Beaverton. Then after that, so family issues. My mom, but they're not like they're immigrants.
Yeah.
Both of them, my parents. So family issues. My mom moved back to her home country, and I was with her. So most of my school years were there. Probably that's why I have a really beautiful accent.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I think that's cool. Yeah.
So this is what happened. Then I came back and then got sick with cancer. So I moved. Yeah, I moved to Minnesota for about 2 years. Wow. I lived there. Then came back to Eugene again. I lost all of my hair.
And obviously you survived and beat it. And
yeah, it was like 7 years ago.
Wow.
And the nice thing about it is I have my hair back, all of it.
And it looks fantastic.
And also, and also because of the chemo treatment and the position of the radiation that I had, they told me you're not going to be able to have kids anymore. At that point, I have my oldest kids, 2 of them.
Okay.
So we didn't mind. I mean, we have 2 kids, but then 4 years ago, my wife was pregnant, and we had our 3rd one. Wow. And now we have the 4th one.
Jeez.
So it's almost like it didn't happen, except for some health issues. Not a big deal because of the surgery.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a cool story. I like that. And you've been in Eugene since then, basically.
Yeah.
I always ask people, what's your favorite thing about the Northwest? It could be a restaurant in Eugene or like a nature thing or...
Well, so many things are really nice about Oregon specifically. I mean, I definitely like the nature.
Yeah.
I definitely like the atmosphere that we live in. But mainly, I mean, the main thing that I like about Oregon, which is really distinguished, and people don't really talk about it, but I care about it, is Oregon generally is changing, unfortunately, is one of the most friendly states. I mean, the people are really good with each other.
Yeah, and
unfortunately, it's changing, but it's the friendliest one.
Yeah, I was gonna say I trust your opinion too, because you're saying you spent time in, where was it, Minnesota? And
yeah.
Because I've
lived
Minnesota.
Here. It's really freezing.
I've only ever lived in Oregon, so I don't,
No, I mean,
nice.
Yeah, you can notice that. Many people come here and really like it. I mean, the sense of that kind of kindness and friendliness from the community. I don't know if the hippies had a role in it, but I'm thankful for it. Yeah. This is the most distinguished thing, in my opinion, about Oregon.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is a goofy one. This I've been asking this to people. It's a food question.
Uh-huh.
Do you like crunchy or smooth peanut butter, or maybe you don't like peanut butter at all? I don't know.
Not at all.
Okay.
No, I don't like the smell of it. No,
Okay.
I
I like
can't.
that. I
My,
like.
my son now, I mean, because me and my wife, we don't really buy any peanut butter, but now those are teenagers and they go on YouTube and watch all of these
Videos.
videos.
Yeah, yeah.
I allow them to watch some. So anyhow, he was looking at some food video, and someone told him about. Someone was talking about peanut butter, and I forgot. Oh, some sort of a sauce or something that you put. It's weird. Nobody does that. Peanut butter goes with maybe honey and maybe jam or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But that guy was doing it differently, and he told me I want to get some peanut butter, and I got him some, and he likes it. I don't know. I don't know how people like it, honestly.
Well, I appreciate that perspective because you're the first one to say that, so I like that though. Because yeah, I don't know, it's a weird thing. Some people don't like it, and I like the crunchy one. That's why I always ask this, and nobody likes the crunchy kind. It seems like, but it's also like everyone who I ask here, they're like, it's not healthy. Like you shouldn't be eating it. Like it's. But anyway.
Well, I don't like the peanut butter, but like a peanuts, I would eat them.
Okay.
They're just fine.
The regular, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, cool. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up here?
Well, no, actually, I don't know. I don't
No,
know
that's
if
okay.
there's something I
Yeah.
have to talk about, but there's one thing that actually it is a good conclusion to this discussion. When we talk about politics and politicians, I mean, there's something that we have to really, really understand that politics and politicians are really dangerous. This is dangerous positions. When we talk about positions of power, this is dangerous. It's risky. People don't think about it that way, but if we look at our lives, I mean, when we talk about marriage, for example, we see too many legislation and laws about it. Who put these laws in place? These politicians. When we talk about family and children, child protective services, we talked about them. Who put these laws into place? It's lawmakers. When we talk about the money that we have, I mean, the money now would buy you $1 would buy you maybe a soda now.
Yeah.
For example,
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe 2 years later, it doesn't buy you a soda. It's devaluated. Who's responsible for this devaluation, which we call the inflation? It's laws. Who put these laws into that place and these places? Again, it's lawmakers. When we look at everything in our life, we see laws controlled, put in place by these politicians, meaning that those politicians can control our lives. Sometimes we don't feel it, we're used to it, but those politicians control your life. And now, if you are not really aware of those people, if you don't do your own due diligence, if you don't really research these policies and these politicians, if you don't educate yourself about what's going on, then you're basically saying, whoever control my life, it doesn't matter to me. But they can't control your life. They can send you to war if they want to. They can get these people stationed overseas killed. They can kill people. They can bankrupt the country. They can turn it upside down. So these are dangerous positions. And unfortunately, the majority of us don't really care about looking into these issues. If you are not educated about the issue of wars, for example, if you're not educated about the issue of a monetary system, about the economy, then when you look at that candidate or that politician, you don't have the tools to evaluate them. what are you gonna say? I mean, you don't know anything. You don't know anything about the issues that they're talking about. They sound really bright, and they have a smile, and they have a really pretty wife, beautiful family. Maybe they have really um, nice body, and
Mm-hmm.
they're really attractive, and you like that, and you give them your vote, you give them that control over your life, and then suddenly 10 years later you'll end up with facing all of these problems and you don't know what happened. This is really sensitive, and people who are running to these positions, I mean, they should evaluate that decision.
Yeah. No, I
they,
think.
they should think about what they are doing. They're running to control people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not qualified. They don't know actually how to do that. They don't know. And the people are happily giving them that support.
Yeah.
They think this is the right decision.
Yeah. No, I
I'm
think
not
that's a
talking
good.
about Republicans, Democrats. I'm talking about everyone. So it is dangerous. It is a dangerous position to be in control of people's life. It's not an exaggeration when I say that they control your life, because they do.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great message because like a lot of people I talk to on the show say the same thing of like, especially at the local level, you really need to educate yourself and be aware of this stuff because it's becoming harder and harder with all the noise and the other stuff. So I think it's a great message. Yeah. And thank you so much for coming, man.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.